Elias had learned to keep his head down and his heart locked away. On the battlefield, emotions were luxuries that got you killed. Yet on that cold November morning, as smoke curled above the ruined village and the sky hung heavy with ash, something made him pause. A soft sound like a whimper, or maybe a prayer drifted from the collapsed stone chapel ahead. His orders were clear: search, report, move on. But the sound pressed against his ribs, urging him forward. Inside the chapel, half buried under splintered wood and broken glass, he found her. A woman, dust covering her hair, a cut along her cheek, one hand shielding a worn leather satchel she refused to let go of. Her eyes snapped open the second she heard his boots crunch against the rubble. Fear surged into her gaze. War had a way of making every stranger look like a threat. "Don't move," she whispered, breath trembling. "I am not your enemy." Elias raised his hand slowly. "I am not here to hurt you." She hesitated, studying him. Her uniform said she belonged to the other side, his side-sworn rival. But the exhaustion in her eyes was more powerful than any badge or color. "My name is Lyra," she said finally. "I'm a medic. There were wounded civilians here. Children. I couldn't leave them, but the building collapsed." Elias scanned the room. No signs of anyone else alive. Something inside him tightened. "Let me help you out," he said. She flinched. "Why would you help me?" He didn't have an answer, not one that made sense in a world where people killed because of flags and lines on maps. He just knew that if he walked away now, the memory would haunt him forever. Lyra reluctantly took his hand. Her palm was cold, trembling. As he lifted the beam pinning her leg, she winced but didn't scream. When she finally stood, her weight collapsed into him. He studied her, surprised at how fragile she felt. She seemed like someone who'd spent her life patching others together, never expecting someone to catch her when she fell apart. "Thank you," she murmured. He tried not to care about the warmth in her voice. They stepped outside the ruins. Snow had begun falling, soft flakes melting on her lashes. The world around them looked like a photograph, beautiful in the way only broken things can be. "You should come with me," Elias said quietly. "This area isn't safe." Lyra shook her head. "My station is 2 miles east. If I don't return, they'll assume the worst. That's enemy territory." She managed a small, tired smile. "It's home." Every instinct in him said to turn back, to walk away, to pretend none of this happened. But as she limped through the snow, stubborn and determined, he found himself following her like gravity had chosen her as its center. They didn't speak for a long time. The silence between them wasn't hostile. It felt like a fragile agreement, built not from trust but from the refusal to let the world decide who they were. Halfway through the valley, Lyra stumbled to her knees. Elias rushed to her side. "It's just pain," she whispered, trying to rise. "It'll pass." But he saw the truth. Her leg was badly wounded. She wouldn't make it another mile before he could decide what to do next. The sharp crack of gunfire split the air. Snipers. Leora's eyes widened. Elias grabbed her, pulling her behind a fallen tree. More shots peppered the ground around them. "They saw us," she whispered. "We need to move." Elias knew the terrain, knew the shooters weren't aiming for him, they were aiming for her. She was the enemy medic. Taking her out meant crippling her unit. She looked at him with a heartbreaking mixture of resolve and apology. "Leave me," she said. "You're risking your life for nothing." But Elias didn't move. He didn't know when it happened, whether it was in the chapel, or when she pressed her hand into his, or when she whispered thank you. But something had shifted in him. He couldn't walk away. "Hold on," he said. He waited for the next shot, counted the rhythm. The moment the air fell silent, he pushed Lyra onto the ground and covered her with his body. A bullet tore through his shoulder. The impact knocked the breath from him. He didn't cry out, only tightened his hold on her, shielding her with every inch of himself. "Elias," she gasped. "You've been shot. Why would you?" "Because you're a human being," he said through clenched teeth. "And I'm tired of pretending that doesn't matter." Something broke in her then, something deeper than fear or shock. She pressed her hand against the wound, desperate to stop the bleeding. "You saved my life," she whispered, voice cracking. "You didn't even know me." He gave a weak smile. Maybe that's the best reason. Under the still falling snow, with gunfire echoing through the mountains, Lyra dragged him toward a rocky ledge where they could hide. Each step she took, she gritted her teeth through her own pain, refusing to let him fall. When they finally reached shelter, Elias slumped against the stone. Lyra tore open her satchel, pulling out gauze and a small vial of pain medicine. "You shouldn't waste that on me," he murmured. "Don't tell me how to do my job," she said, voice fierce but trembling. As she worked, her hands shook not from cold, but from fear of losing the man who should have been her enemy. Hours passed. The storm faded. The gunfire stopped. By dawn, they could hear search teams, her people calling her name. "You'll be safe now," Elias said quietly. "Go." Lyra stared at him. "I'm not leaving you." He tried to push a smile. "They won't treat me kindly. You know that." "I don't care," she said. "You protected me. Now I protect you. That's how humanity survives this madness." Her team eventually found them. Weapons were raised instantly, shouts echoing through the cold air. Lyra stepped between them and Elias, arms spread wide. "He saved my life," she said, voice ringing with a power no one expected. "He's not a prisoner. He's under my protection." The soldiers hesitated, not because she outranked them, but because compassion spoken with such conviction was impossible to ignore. They carried Elias to safety. Lyra stayed beside him the entire way. In the weeks that followed, as he recovered under guarded watch, she visited daily. They spoke for hours about everything but the war, about books he loved, songs that reminded her of home, the world they wished existed beyond the lines drawn by men who never bled for their decisions. When the war finally ended, Elias stepped outside the medical tent into the bright spring sunlight and found Lyra waiting. "You came," he said softly. She smiled. "You took a bullet for me." "Of course I came." In the silence that followed, something warm unfolded between them, not romance yet, not certainty. Just the simple truth that two strangers who should have hated each other had chosen compassion instead. And that choice had changed everything. War had taught Elias many things, but Lyra taught him the most important. Humanity wins when we give it the chance.